Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Schools of Consciousness. My name is Jess. I'm a transformational life coach and I specialize in inner alchemy and energy mastery. Today, I will be teaching you how to transform your vices into virtues. And before we begin, let's talk about what vices and virtues means. A vice is a shortcoming. It is a weakness of character. Vices are our limiting beliefs. It is what keeps us from reaching our full potential. Our virtue is our strong point. Our virtue is our higher qualities that make us human. We learn negative habits or our vices through our early childhood development. We learn this in our environment. If we grew up in a home where lack, poverty was a big theme, if we grew up in a home with violence and lack of self-confidence, lack of control, addictions, we learn this in our schools. We learn this in our communities. We learn these negative habits through social programming, social constructs. And if we are not aware of our vices, depending on your genetics, you can turn these vices into addictions, which then become chronic and begin to affect your life in every way. Now, just because your vice has not turned into addiction does not mean that you are any better than an addict, because our vices and our addictions are coming from us trying to fill a void. We're trying to fill this boredom with something to distract us, something to numb us. And we do this unconsciously. And when we try to fill this void unconsciously with external things, and we're not getting to the root, we then continue this cycle of suffering, this cycle of repetitive actions that create suffering, insanity. And in order for us to truly heal and free ourselves, we can only do this through restoring our focus and our attention to the most important love that we crave as a human being, which is love of God, a purpose, a higher purpose. And when we lose drive, when we lose purpose, when we lose focus and direction, this is when we fall victim to our vices and we can be prone to addictions. So it's important for us to become aware of our negative behavioral patterns that are keeping us small, that are keeping us trapped. So I'm going to share with you the 3 main steps towards transforming your vices into virtue. And the first one I call active surrender. And what is active surrender? You see, surrender has nothing to do with being passive. Surrendering is an act, right? We come to this place of realizing that we are powerless over ourselves and that our little self has only created suffering. And in order for us to overcome this suffering, we must surrender to a higher power. We must surrender to our source to guide us. So the act of surrendering has nothing to do with passivity. Rather, it is an act of radical responsibility. Because when we come to this place of active surrender, this is when we have the desire to be a better human being. We are willing to go through the purification process, purifying our mind, heart, and soul. And we have the ability to realize our false self, our false ego that is keeping us trapped. So we have come to this inner knowing that we need the help of our higher self, a higher power, to be able to guide us through. So this is active surrender. And it is the most important and the most profound place to be in when we are being prepared to transform ourselves and go through the alchemical process. And for this, we need to come to this place of sincerity, to pray to our higher power, to pray to God's source, to give us the strength to persevere through the hardest times, to give us the wisdom to allow us to see what we cannot see, to shine the light in the darkness, and to give us the courage to face our fears. The second step is the psychological work. So after active surrender, we begin this process of doing the inner work, which is the shadow work, right? Where we dive into the unconscious to understand ourselves better. We dive into our childhood memories to understand our pain, to understand the root cause of our suffering. Because the only way that we can truly heal is by having a psychological depth and understanding what were the reasons for us creating suffering. And if we don't understand this through a psychological process, psychological meaning the process of your soul, your psyche, then we will continue to reproduce these patterns. But through a psychological process, through cultivating our higher mind, our higher faculties, right? By cultivating our virtues, these divine qualities, this is what allows us to then embody. But without this process, then we are not able to understand why we're creating the same suffering, why we are in this samsara wheel, why we are in this wheel of reproducing pain. And through the process of gnosis, through this inner alchemical process, this is where all the magic begins, because this is where you are no longer coming from this victim mindset, but you are now transforming that victim consciousness into a victor, into a hero, to elevate yourself, to ascend yourself to a higher state of being, to acquire the higher taste and the higher qualities of divine being. And this is the restoration and the purification of our consciousness, returning back to wholeness. And this is necessary for us to plant a new garden, because our mind has taken upon bad seeds and they grew out of control, right? So doing the psychological work, doing the inner work, the shadow work is when you begin to pull out those bad seeds. And then you are able to cultivate a fertile soil, planting the seeds with intention, and as you nurture and you water it, you will see that beautiful garden grow with beautiful ideas, beautiful qualities that will be fruitful and that will be filled with abundance that you are able to share with others. And these are the qualities of gratitude, right? If you are ungrateful, that is a vice. So we turn that ungrateful vice into a virtue, which is gratitude, developing and cultivating an attitude of gratitude. If you lack discernment and you have poor judgment, or you judge yourself so much, the psychological process allows you to understand why you judge yourself. And through that process of doing the shadow work and the integration work, this transforms into discernment. And this is how we go through this process, developing beautiful qualities such as devotion, such as truthfulness, faithfulness, honesty, diligence. These are some of the divine qualities that we are here to learn to embody. And the third step is a devotional path. I want to be very clear with you that psychological work and the devotional path are not linear, because everyone has their own individual process. There is not one individual on this earth that has the exact same process as you do. But those are the 3 steps that are necessary, and they can overlap, right? They overlap throughout your own individual process. So the third step, which is the devotional path, it's so important for us to truly take this as our mission to be better, and to see it as a devotional path, a devotional practice, to becoming a better version of ourselves every single day, to hold ourselves at a higher standard. Because it's easy for people to fall off. It's easy for you to go back to your negative habits, to your vices. That is the easy way, because most of the people would rather take that route than taking radical responsibility, because it's difficult to take radical responsibility. And this is why this is the great work of mankind. And through seeing this, and through devoting yourself to this path of becoming your greatest version, of developing the highest qualities and showing up and embodying your divine self, this is a beautiful way to remember that you have a purpose. And this allows you to hold yourself accountable and to develop integrity, to be honest with yourself. And through the devotional path and seeing this as a daily practice, it allows you to also stay consistent and see this not as an end destination, but rather learn to enjoy the process. So I invite you to take in this information, see where you are at in your own journey. Be real with yourself, because it's very easy for us to try and deny and think that we don't have a problem, or that we have it all figured out, or everyone else needs help except me. I'm good, right? It's very easy to fall in that category. But I want to invite you to hold yourself to a higher standard and be honest with yourself. Be real with yourself. What are some low habits, some negative habits or belief systems that have been keeping you small, that have been keeping you from truly tapping into your potential? Because I guarantee you, if you face those limiting beliefs, if you face those weaknesses, you can only get stronger, because things are only a weakness when we are unaware of them. But if you are able to identify a weakness, you now have something there, because you can now work on that weakness to become your strength. So if you resonated with this video and you feel like you might need some help along this path and you don't know where to get started, or maybe you've started on your path but you still are hitting walls, right? You're still having these major blockages, these blind spots that are really hard for you to get through. This is where I come in. This is my line of work, and I'm inviting you to schedule a consultation with me and see how we can work together to move through these blockages so you can live up to your full potential. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in to this video. If you found value in this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos. Have a beautiful day. Until next time.